It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Great show ahead today. We've got Andy Iannacco, Rene Ritchie, and a visit from the original Macintosh podcaster, Adam Christianson of MacCast. And we've got a plan for Apple to save the Macintosh. We'll talk about the Apple file system, when's that coming, and Apple Watch. Sales are through the roof or in the toilet. Which is it? It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 536, recorded Tuesday, December 6th, 2016. Tatooine to Hoth. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price. Because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off a mattress purchase by visiting Casper.com/MacBreak and entering the promo code MacBreak. And by Gazelle, the online marketplace for buying and selling used gadgets. Shop from a variety of certified pre-owned electronics or trade one in for cash. Give new life to a used device at Gazelle.com today. And by Squarespace. Make your business and online store stand out with the only platform that lets you create, manage, and brand your store in a beautiful way. For a free trial and 10% off, be sure to enter the offer code MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And a nice panel joining us. Rene Ritchie's back home, ensconced in Montreal, where I saw the wildest bus crash. On Facebook. I'll show it in a minute. It just made me sad that you were back in the freezing cold.
Yeah, I left the studio. I got on a plane. I landed, and there was snow everywhere. It was like going from Tatooine to Hoth. It was amazing.
Only you would call it from Tatooine to Hoth. I love it. Also with us, Andy Iannacco. It's getting a little chilly where you are too, in beautiful New England.
Yeah, a little frost on the pumpkin this morning.
Frost is on the pumpkin. And it's great to have you from the Chicago Sun-Times. And joining us it's been an age.
A little while, yeah.
So from MacCast, Adam Christianson. I forgot where you're located. You're in San Diego?
San Diego, California, which we have that weather stuff. We don't know what that is.
Always a beautiful day in San Diego.
It much is. Yeah, we're spoiled.
Oh, it's just amazing.
But they have French fries in their burritos, so nothing is perfect.
Oh, are you kidding? California burrito, carne asada.
I've never had it with French fries in it. Is that true?
That is true. California carne asada burrito. Come down. We'll have some. They're delicious.
Where do you get that? I've been to San Diego many times. In fact, that's where we like to. That's where we like to go. In San Diego in California when we're This is, by the way, got to show you this. This is yesterday in Montreal. It's a little slippery.
Oh, goodness.
A little slippery.
He's just helping him up the slope.
Just pushing him along.
Yeah.
A little slippery, and then wait a minute, it's not over yet because here comes a cab. Here comes a cab. Is he going to be able to avoid? No.
Yep.
He did.
I have the anti-lock brakes, and all yesterday at every intersection it was da-da-da-da-da-da as they.
Well, look, these guys' wheels are locked up.
Ouch.
Ooh. Yep. But it's not over yet, my friend, because. Here comes another button. This is in slow motion. Notice wheels not turning. So there's really nothing this guy could do.
Every single nightmare of mine is, okay, I could tell the wheels are locked up. At that point, Isaac Newton will either crash me into this barrier or Isaac Newton will not crash me.
God. And you can see him turning the wheels left, right, trying anything. He helped the truck get free, though. And then this is the best part. Because this is not slow motion, by the way. This is in real time. But if you've ever been, and I've been in wrecks on icy roads, if you've ever been in them, it's in slow motion because there's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to happen.
You're like an audience member. I just went for a walk yesterday, and the sidewalks were so icy. I got an incredible adductor workout just trying to do the snowplow the entire way.
I love this. This one's a good one because this guy's got some weight, and he's going to really damage that police
sanding truck.
Yeah.
What a
boom! Oh!
No one got injured, I'm assuming.
No, no. In fact, you see the police officer on the right. He got out of the car when it was just. There's nothing you can do.
We all said sorry a lot. We said sorry.
Sorry.
We'll wait to see like tomorrow when all the passengers of the city bus decide call their cousins who are lawyers and decide whether or not they've been injured or not.
So Apple has gone all the way to the Supreme Court with a Samsung decision and lost. Now, the decision this time was merely, it was kind of an interesting point of law, whether a company suing, as Apple did Samsung, can get as damages the entire profits from a phone. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously they cannot and sent it back to the Court of Appeals to determine how much Samsung should pay.
Can you imagine if there was any other vendor who makes zero profits? No. There was no money made. You can't sue.
Yeah.
It's HTC. Leave them alone.
I guess it was a jury that said $960 million. Wasn't it more, even more at one point?
Yeah, it was like 1.3, 1.4
billion. Billion.
But wasn't that kind of ridiculous to begin with? The idea that there is nothing that Samsung did in this phone that would have led to a penny of profit except for the stuff they took from Apple.
Right.
Like,
you can look at it the opposite way too.
You're big into. We'll see you next week in the same courtroom.
You can look at it the opposite way too, and like it cost $5 billion to come up with the original design. So for $1.3 billion, you're getting it like the knockoff cheap. It's a discount.
But the weird thing is that they didn't actually. I don't think they actually earmarked that as punitive damages. I know that, for instance, in copyright infringement, it's not just the actual cost of what was cost by the. What the infringement cost the copyright holder, but in that case, you can actually get treble damages to say, look, just to make sure that just make sure you're not going to try to get a discount. If you lose, we're going to get 3 times as much money as you would have paid me had you licensed this fairly. But they were just saying, nope, this is how much damage was done to Apple. Poor Apple.
Oh, I think wasn't there some markup for it being willful. I forget the original deal, but I think there was some. Yeah.
So there were 2 cases, Apple versus Samsung. One was patented things like swipe to unlock. This one was the design patents, the rounded corner front face, bezel, and the colorful grid of icons representing programs and applications. And we've talked about this for years now.
We're so lucky Steve Jobs never saw a Pixel.
All phones look this way now. But it's true that the very first Samsung smartphone did look a lot like an iPhone. I mean, it would be it would be easy to confuse the two.
They were Verizon iPhones because it wasn't available.
Right.
Yeah. I mean there's a point in which you get caught and then you don't even try to put up a defense when it's not. It wasn't a lot of people were making fun of rounded corners. Yes, Apple invented rounded corners, but it went deeper than that. When you talk about the icons that are knockoffs of like the photo icon and the calendar icon, and not just they own the idea of a little calendar icon, but no, it's like almost pixel for pixel. They were just like cut, copy, paste, and then like adjust the color slider in Photoshop, and then good. You're stamping on it's good. Now I do think they moved away from that really, really quickly after they got their phone off the launch pad. But you can't look at this first phone and not think that. Yeah, they were there. There was a lot of Command C, Command V happening in the design lab that day.
The original verdict goes back to 2012. That's how long we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Jury and I don't know if a jury really is the best way to judge this, but I don't know any other way to do it. But the jury said, they say to the jury, well, was this confusing? Was it intentional? The jury ruled $930 million in penalties. That was later cut by $382 million in December 2015 of last year, a year ago. Samsung paid $548 million to Apple. No, it wasn't delivered in pennies in a truck, as some had. That's another. It was great
Samsung Pay, right? They just gave a fingerprint.
That's a great fake news story, right? Oh, they paid them in pennies.
They paid them in Note 7s, I think.
I would love to know how many pennies $548 million would be. How many trucks? Yeah, really. Yeah. But Samsung appealed and said, we'll give them some, but $399 million of that money we'd like back because you can't take every penny that we made on the phone. So this is a 5-year-old suit, and at this point, there's nowhere else to go. You've gone to the Supremes. They ruled 8-0. The opinion written by Sonia Sotomayor that a patent violator does not always have to fork over its entire profits from the sales of products using stolen designs. They weren't, again, debating whether the design was stolen, but how much of the profit needs to go to Apple.
Does it go back to a lower court now to re-adjudicate the...
Yes. U.S. Court of Appeals
now
now
it's not over, Leo.
Yeah, I guess you're right. What was I thinking?
It's not over.
And in fact, the Supreme Court was careful not to kind of set a precedent for future juries on how to handle these kinds of disputes, except that they ruled you don't have to give everything if the design only covers certain components and not the whole thing.
I bet the lawyers have paid their $100 million by now, though.
Holy cow. Holy cow. Nobody wins in stuff like
They're
this.
just pulling up to the Supreme Court in their Lamborghinis. I can go on and on, but I don't think there's not that much more to say about it. Now, there is that other case, right? The patent case, which Samsung also lost. I don't know what the status of that is, though, and I don't really care anymore. They can all go straight out the door.
Is that the old slide to unlock one, which Apple's not even using that anymore, right?
Yeah, slide to unlock. It's the software pads.
And the elastic
banding, the rubber band.
And then clicking a link to determine that a link is a phone number and then in
data
text,
detectors.
and then you can click it. Data detectors. But I love your iMore piece. Where is the Samsung-shaped dent in the universe? There's the Tower PC that looks a little bit like Apple's trash can Mac.
I update it regularly.
Oh, yeah, because that's brand new. That was updated a couple of months ago. I'm actually tempted. I wonder if the Samsung has a little longer shelf life than the Mac Pro.
The thing that surprised me is when you go back, there's before the iPhone, there's just a Samsung version of the BlackBerry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
The Blackjack, I think it was called.
There are similarities. There's the fingerprint reader. Yeah, that does look like a BlackBerry, doesn't it? Holy cow.
Well, it also looks like a Trio, and it also looks like a lot of phones that are out that day.
Right. Yeah. Well, but even everybody copies everybody. This is the original one we were talking about.
When taken as a sum total whole of work.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely... even the icons look, very similar.
Yeah, the phone icon. They didn't rip off the idea of an old-fashioned handset, but green, come on.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. As frustrating as that is from this legal perspective, something that I think helps users is the commonality.
Right.
Green has sort of become the universal phone color, and blue this universal mail message color sort of thing. So it sort of set up this language. And I think some of the copying, you could maybe argue, is done for those reasons, right?
Well, and
absolutely.
you wouldn't want to have cars that had brake pedals in different locations, right?
Yeah, and also, I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing a system that works well in the field, and then saying, you know what, our system would be better if we did it that way. Apple's certainly done that time and time again, even with the iPhone, where this is the reason why Android benefits from the presence of iOS, and iOS benefits from the presence of Android.
We do not, by the way, know how many garbage trucks it would take to take $500 million in pennies. But this, thanks to a battle cam in our chat room and the Toronto Sun, is how many pennies. This is $1 billion worth of pennies compared to a football field. So,
wow!
Just so you know, there's a little person down. Wait a minute. I got to do the telestrator now. Hold on.
Now, is that a Canadian football field or an American one?
Good
Canadian
question.
Football field is
this 100 yards?
It's a 3-down football field.
And remember, it wasn't a full $1 billion. It was only 300. What was this much right here?
To take out that ball cube, the man has to run to the left, Leo, and then block.
Yeah. Boom! Pow! Bazoom! All right, enough.
That is so great.
I just can't resist telestrating these shows. So yeah, I love this, and so you keep this up to date, Rene, with the latest, because you're right.
Yeah, when you take it as a sum total of work over time, apparently they've gone through this with refrigerators and washing machines and everything that Samsung does, because they're not an American company. They're a conglomerate that makes everything, and all of these things get adjudicated. And we do win because they become fair and reasonably licensable patents, and everyone starts doing things the same, and consumers benefit.
And to some degree, this happens everywhere. I remember back in 1998 on Tech TV when we were doing the new screensavers, and Apple released the first iMac, or the Bondi Blue iMac. I guess that was the first one, right? And everybody's all excited about Bondi Blue and the stories about Steve Jobs carefully picking the color. So we went out and we bought vacuum cleaners, all sorts of home appliances they were clear Bondi Blue plastic, looked exactly the same. We had a whole museum. I wish I could find a picture of that.
That'd be so great.
Because they all look the same.
I remember seeing like George Foreman style grills, like not only just in the Bondi Blue, but also in the tangerine, in the raspberry red,
the Dalmatian.
It was wonderful.
Flower Power waffle maker.
But the point I think we were making,
that one didn't have a floppy drive either.
Was that this stuff had all come out before Apple came out with its iMac. This was stuff predated, prior art.
You can see a huge Braun influence in Johnny Ive's work.
Exactly.
I mean, everything from the Mac Pros, all of it is highly derivative of Dieter Ram's work.
Nobody would want to design something sui generis that had no basis in the past, because, as you point out, Adam, we wouldn't know how to use it. It'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got a little frustrated when those lawsuits were really, really in high spirits, because there are always some people who are just they love Apple so much that they really want to they pick up the sword and the shield, and nothing can possibly defend them as strongly as they can. And then I really had to say, well, okay, fine, I'll go through I went to my storage unit, got like the big laundry hamper of handheld devices. It's like, okay, let's just look through some Palm devices here. Okay, what do you know? We've got a pocket device with rounded corners and a center home button, and the icons are on a grid just like the iPhone. It came out like 4 or 5 years before that. And here's another one where it has this app that also works exactly the same way. And it wasn't trying to slap Apple down or slap this person down in any way, but to teach the lesson that you look at what works great when something is in the field. You look at how you can't have a design that is just simply academic. It only exists when people are interacting with it. It's just like a book only really exists when someone is reading it and is having that that effect on you. A play only works when it's being performed in front of an audience. And that's when you can think that maybe, I don't know if people are kind of in the mood for like a really large phone. We can't do that until somebody is crazy enough to do it. And then you see that, oh, well, what do you know? People actually like this. And then you can actually buy one yourself as a designer, say, wow, there are things about this that I really did not anticipate liking about it. And so that will, hopefully that will inform your own decisions. You can't design in a vacuum. At some point, you have to go out into the real world and see how people are interacting with things. And if you're not influenced by things, whether it's another maker of another sort of device you're working on, or even a set design at an opera, you're really not living in the world that your customers are living in. So that's a bad thing.
There's this huge design philosophy where it's very common to copy. Great artists steal is one of the famous things. But you don't want to ever just rip somebody off.
Steve Jobs' quote, by the way.
Totally. And I think it came from Picasso. I think he was quoting Picasso.
Right.
Like, you don't want to make Belvin and Dobbs the story of a young boy and his imaginary dog, because that's way too close. But you want to copy forward. You want to take, and everything is a remix. Is a great series about this. You want to take the archetypes that people know and are used to and love, and take them the next step. You want to contribute back. Nobody wants to be a designer who's just told, go make your version of that. They want to say, take this and make it better. And that's sort of what we want in the design community.
Sir Isaac Newton said, if I've seen farther than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Again, and especially with technology, when you're innovating something new, when something new comes out and it works, that language sort of iterates from that. And I think, another place we're seeing this right now, and you don't see a ton of lawsuits flying around, luckily, is with a lot of the new voice devices and voice interfaces that are coming forward, right?
Yeah, the Google Home really is a direct ripoff of Amazon's Echo, isn't it?
I wouldn't even say ripoff, but it's more like the
copy.
Well, no, I'd say if it's a copy, only in the same way that the iPhone 6 Plus was a ripoff of the Note. It wasn't a ripoff. Right. It was just, hey, look at it. We hadn't really thought. Well, no, again, not even homage. It's like it's such an odd. It's such a again, someone has to be crazy enough to say, what if we make a computer that has no screen, no buttons as its primary interface? You just speak to it and it talks back, and we'll make it a good speaker, but that's all that we'll ever do. Really, only a crazy company would do that, but it's that one ant that has that mutation, so that instead of following the scent trail that's been laid down to the sugar and back, it keeps going off on crazy tangents, and that's when you find things that are brand new.
Precisely, and that's why. So it's a balance, because you can't innovate, and this is why the patent system is the way it is. There's a limited time for a patent, and in order to get the patent, you have to expose the process to the rest of the world so everybody can take advantage of it. Yeah,
like Lotus versus Excel, it can't be the best solution for that thing.
And so there's this balance between innovate and get the benefit of the innovation. You put all the R&D into it. Amazon puts all that cleverness into the Echo. They should get some benefit, but at the same time, this is a breakthrough, and everybody should be, everybody should ultimately be able to take advantage of it. Right. But I mean, if the Echo didn't exist, I doubt the Google Home would exist. It doesn't look like the Echo, but
exactly. But it's and to be fair, when you're talking about like all it is, it's a speaker and a microphone and a connection to the internet. It's not as though you can, well, how about we make the speaker square? Okay, it doesn't really change how it works, but okay.
They copied Sonos, Andy. They totally copied Sonos.
Well, Sonos might have be the prior right there. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to make a joke. I'm waiting for the Renews It lawsuit against the Google Home.
It does look like a Renews It. In fact, there's a Renews It in our men's room here, and I thought, somebody put an Echo. Oh no, it's not a Google Home.
Actually, on that subject, I will quickly say, because there might be some people who are thinking about the Google Home and the Amazon Echo. I have to say that I've been using the Google Home for about a month now, and I did take it out of I did kind of shut it down. It's not working as well as the Echo is, and it's not as mature as the Echo is right now. I think that'll change in time, but I think that people right now the Echo is really at that wow. That wow spot in technology, where if you give someone this for Christmas and they've never used it before, it will just work, and it'll work with everything, and you will try to stump it or try to make it trip over something, and it just plain won't. And you can be in the next room and it'll work, and it'll just be a magical device. Google Home, you can see the potential of it, particularly when they eventually hook up a lot of their machine learning into it. Right now, it's nice, it's cute, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, you came to independently the exact same conclusion I did, because I'm getting questions now from on the radio show. Which should I buy? Because it's with the Amazon Dot down to $40 for Black Friday. It's very tempting if you have a pair of speakers lying around. And I agree with you. The only thing the Home is better at is kind of general knowledge-based questions. You can talk to Google, and because Google has all of that data. But the Echo is more useful in so many ways. And once the Sonos integration appears early next year, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, Google has this. They've got the dragon in the keep, waiting to be unslipped, and that is when it's just as good as the handheld search, where no matter what you ask it, it will figure it out. Right now, I'm even having a problem with the microphones.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well, I mean, I had it I put it in the bedroom, because that's where I get dressed in the morning. That's where I'm when I think at night, I'll give it notes, or that's when I wake up. I want to know, do I need to get out of bed right now, or can I just sleep for another 20 minutes? And even with it 3 feet away on the nightstand, I'd find myself using my 1990s 2002 style of speech of. What are my appointments tomorrow? What
and then you
is
get louder,
the
right?
weather in New York on Thursday?
Do you have, Adam, do you have either of those? Do you use Siri? Do you have some?
I just got a Dot.
Yeah. At $40,
holidays.
That's what's going to power Amazon. It's going to explode. And they now have 5,000 skills, they announced. That is remarkable. It also points up a real problem with these, because how would you even know what skills it had and how to add them and remember the syntax for calling them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
50 of them seem to be dog facts.
There are a lot of dog facts, a lot of bad dad jokes. A lot of them are semi-useless. But then buried in there, there are these nuggets of very useful skills. It's so funny because you pointed out, Rene, when you were here, that the Apple Watch outsells the Echo by a factor of 3, as far as we can tell. And yet everybody says the Apple Watch is a flop and the Echo is the next big thing.
New product category. Everyone has to make one. Where's yours?
But I think the future might be a little brighter. Although Tim Cook says the Apple Watch sold better than what was the quote? It's the best holiday weekend ever or something like that.
Yeah, so it was super funny because IDC put out numbers saying that it was down 70% or something.
Right.
And IDC, I mean, sometimes
year.
they're great. Sometimes they say Windows Phone is going to eclipse iPhone and Android by 2015. So I mean, they can be really hit and miss at times. But I saw on iMore the iPhone is usually the most in-demand product that we have over the holidays. But this year over Black Friday, the interest for iPhone was super high, but Apple Watch was even higher than that, especially people trying to figure out, do they get an Apple Watch 2? Should they get an Apple Watch 1? What do they sacrifice? Should they take a deal on an original Apple Watch? What are the different options? And we had an incredible amount of interest in that stuff. So it made no sense to me that they were saying that it was going to be, so depressed, so smart, so turned down. So I started asking around, and it sounded like the numbers were really, really, really off for Apple Watch. And then I guess Tim Cook felt similarly because he decided to come out and say, we're still not sharing numbers with you, but I'm going to tell you.
That bugs me because I feel like this could be, maybe it's because we live in a new era where certain people make assertions without any facts behind it. But without releasing numbers, I mean, I'm not saying he's lying. He couldn't lie, right? He's the CEO of a publicly held company.
No, but it's a weird
thing. But they don't release the numbers. So it's like, we're selling better than ever, but we're not going to tell you how well.
Yeah, so this is the conundrum they're in. They are the only company that really releases numbers for anything. Like if you try to find out how much Samsung or Amazon or any other company ships, good luck to you. They might tell you how much they've stuffed into a channel at a certain point in time, but they'll never really tell you sold numbers. And Apple does. They do it for iPhone and iPad and Mac. And now they don't want to do it for Apple Watch because probably they feel it's going to take a while to ramp up, and also it's a highly competitive new area for them. And now it's like, well, you gave us these. Please, not giving us this is super suspicious. How many Echoes were sold? I mean, only Jeff Bezos knows.
Yeah, they never announced that either. So both these numbers are
best-selling Kindle
projections. Yeah,
but it's also worth mentioning that this is the same week that Motorola, who in my opinion makes the absolute best Android Wear watch out there, said that don't expect a new watch in 2017. We're not even promising we will make an update to any of our wearables because we don't think it's.
We can't. A big category.
We can't. It's not a big category, or at least the state of the company right now is that they really have to focus on phones. They don't have enough attention and resources to continue to promote and develop a market. Because and you could say that one of the reasons is that Google had to delay their big Android Wear 2.0 operating system until early next year. But certainly, if they were going gangbusters in sales, they would say, you know what, we're willing to suffer for 3 months to get that big payout when everybody's was clamoring for an Android Wear 2.0 watch.
Well, and it's also the week that Pebble sold for basically the cost of its debt to Fitbit, which is, the same IDC report that said Apple Watch sales were plunging said that Fitbit is the king of the hill here. So, it's just very, because I got to tell you, I wish Apple, look, when you look at Tim Cook's quote, it's very Trumpian. Sales growth is off the charts.
They have a problem.
It's huge. It's huge. Well, give us some facts if you're going to say that.
I think because there have been so many reports of, look how badly Apple Watch is tanking. He sees the numbers, he knows the truth, and he can say, look, no, the sales are not tanking. Right. We're actually doing really, really well. And
they can't get them into stores.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not just not wanting to say things that might not paint Apple sales in the greatest light. Oftentimes there are such knock-on repercussions to saying, here are the actual figures quarter to quarter, growth to growth. Yeah. Particularly in a market where everybody is trying to figure out that we know that there is gold somewhere in this 1,200 acre area. We know that for a fact. We just don't know where it is and how to get it out of the ground. And that's the state of wearables.
But here's the facts we know. Sell-through is greater than any week in the product's history. Does that mean it's great, or just it's better than it's been in the past? We're on the track for the best quarter ever for the Apple Watch. Does that mean it's sales that Motorola would turn around and say, this is it, this is our hot product? Or is it just better than a crappy bunch of quarters previously, and we just don't know?
Yeah, I'd also like to know.
They've done the math. IDC did the math, and apparently IDC got it wrong.
I'd also like to know how much of this is a direct result of now having a cheapest buy-in at $279, whereas it used to be $400. Right now, it's right at that. It's right at the price you would expect to pay for a decent smartwatch made by anybody.
So that's the reason, because I can't think of any other reason why sales would suddenly be the best quarter ever for Apple Watch.
And the other reason to be fair is that. To be in just a few words, this is the year in which this is the quarter in which Apple Watch doesn't suck. It didn't universally suck before, but with the third version of the Watch OS, Apple seems to finally be making the watch that they would have made had they understood the market this well 2 years ago. Yeah. This is the one where if you were to ask me last year if I should buy an Apple Watch for myself or for a friend or for somebody for Christmas, I'd say no, because they really haven't figured out what they want to do with it. And it's kind of confusing, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't really use it as much as I thought I would. This year, I would say no, it's a really great watch. It costs no more than very little more than what you would get for a Fitbit with the same amount of features, and it is quite useful and it's quite simple. And this is the year in which I would recommend people buy a watch.
This is there. I haven't seen any ads for the Apple Watch, but apparently there has been one. This is maybe why the sales are through the roof. I don't know.
No, it's a more coherent message. And to Andrew's point, it's really focused around fitness now, and you can get in for $269, which is way cheaper. It's $20 more than the mid-level Fitbit costs, which is a much better. And it could be that similarly, there's no real tablet market. There's an iPad market, and then some lower-priced ebook readers or video tablets.
Right.
It might just be that there's no smartwatch market. There's the Apple Watch, and then a variety of Fitbit devices that are like the equivalent of a Shuffle.
And Fitbit in most cases isn't really a watch. I mean, I have the Fitbit Blaze, which is kind of a watch. It does notifications and has time. But really, Fitbit's probably the vast majority of their sales is in the lower priced fitness trackers as opposed to full bore watches.
It's not concrete evidence, but the evidence that I sort of use sometimes to judge this stuff is, are people outside my immediate tech circle asking me about Apple Watch and stuff like that? And I'm getting a lot more of that now, especially again with the lower price points. I get a lot of people who are very interested in end up buying the Series 1. I think the Series 1 is a nice level for a lot of people because you get the latest technology. You don't get everything in the Series 2, but you get that lower price point. So I think a lot of people are responding to that. Sort of like Andy said, that people are recommending them to their friends and family, and it's starting to extend outside of just tech nerds getting these things. And I think that crossover point too with the fitness trackers, it is just a little bit more, and you get a lot of extra functionality that you're maybe not going to get with the Fitbit.
I had the funniest experience at the airport because almost always when I go to the airport, I just tap my Apple Watch at the boarding machine and it goes through. And every time the person at the machine is like, oh, is that going to work? Oh, it worked. Oh, that's so cool. Ha ha. And this time I did it and they just looked at me and raised up their Apple Watch on their wrist and kind of smiled. And I'm like, okay, it's starting to permeate.
I do see more of them, I have to say. Let me just check and see what the availability is.
It's horrible. This is a big story too because Apple still is having trouble getting these into stores.
Yeah. Let's see, 42 millimeter case. Let's see the Series 1. This you could get December 8th. Series 2, December 22nd. But the Sport Watch, I'm looking at the Sport Watch with the silver case and the white band, the least expensive.
Yeah, it varies by watch and by region. Like the Nike watches, some of the 38s are easily available. The 42s are not. It depends on exactly which one you're looking for. But if people could just get them when they wanted them, I think the numbers would look different as well.
All right, let's take a break. Adam Engst is here from the MacCast. How long have you been doing MacCast?
Not quite.
Engst, Christianson. I said it again. There's two Adams in the Mac world, unfortunately, and it's very confusing for me because I'm losing brain cells rapidly. Adam Christianson. How long have you been doing MacCast?
Started in December of 2004.
Longer than we've been doing this show.
Yeah.
In fact, there weren't even podcasts. Oh, I guess there were. That was right at the beginning of podcasting.
Right after we had Adam Curry and Don and Drew and some of those folks were around.
I was around. I did my first podcast in September, October 2004. But we didn't start MacBreak Weekly till the following year, I think. Because I looked at your success and I said, damn it. Damn it!
I remember you even did something back then. I don't know why. You contacted me and reached out to me at that time and said, "We're going to do this. Is this going to be a big deal?"
I didn't want to step on your toes.
It was very polite, not even necessary, but it was great.
Well, I wouldn't do it today, but in those days, there
There were only a handful.
It
of us
was
back
only
then.
a handful, and it was kind of like you had the category. I didn't want to step on you, and you
That
were
was very
very gracious in saying go ahead and do it too. That was very gracious.
I didn't own podcasting. No one does.
There's
right?
plenty of room. There's plenty of room for all of us. MacCast.com. Also, Andy Iannacco from the Chicago Sun-Times. When he started the Chicago Sun-Times, I remember he asked the Herald Tribune if it was okay. Way back in 1862. Great to have you.
Well, that was just the morning edition of the paper.
Right.
There.
Remember there used to be in every market a morning and evening, at least a morning and evening paper.
The red car cost just a nickel.
Yeah.
I used to deliver those on my bike.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My brother-in-law, when we bought our house, we're kind of on the edge of town, and he said, "Oh yeah, I used to deliver papers out here on a horse."
Wow.
Yeah, wow, because he's not even that old. And also here from the fabulous imore.com, who need ask no permission for existing, because it is the one and the only, the best place to go to find out what's going on with your computers and your Macs and your watches and your straps.
So many.
And he also has a bunch of really good podcasts, including Apple Talk, the newest. Our show today brought to you by my mattress. Love my Casper. Love it. Sleep is so important to me, as you probably could gather looking at me. I like to sleep. And as I get older, I find a good night's sleep becomes more and more of a precious thing. Having a great mattress makes a huge difference, and Casper is a great mattress. It breathes, it's cool, so you don't overheat. It's just a wonderful, wonderful mattress. Time Magazine called it one of the best inventions of 2015. How about that, huh? I love it. And now here's the deal. It's made in the U.S. You can get free shipping and returns in the U.S. and Canada. Big Innovation Award for 2016. Fast Company Innovation Design Finalist 2015. Here's the thing. They save money by not having a showroom. Actually, I think they do in New York. I think there's some places where you can get a Casper showroom. But the point is, you really can't judge a mattress by what it feels like in the showroom. So they give you a 100-night trial. You order your Casper mattress right now. It comes in a surprisingly compact box. Anything from a twin all the way up to a California King. You open up the box, whoosh, the mattress opens up. By the way, there's no latex smell or anything. I don't want to, but it's fresh, it's clean. You could sleep on it immediately. In fact, we did. Slept on it immediately, and it was so comfortable. But if at any time in those first 100 nights you say, well, I like my old mattress better, you call them. They'll come and get it. They'll take it. They don't put it back. You don't have to put it back in the box. That would really be mean. You can't. You'd have to have a special machine, I think. But they'll come and get it. They'll pick it up, and they'll get it out, and they'll refund you every penny. So this is really the beauty of the Casper mattress. CASPER.com. The perfect mattress. And go to the website and actually Casper.com/MacBreak and read about how they designed it. They put a lot of things into this. Firmness, density, rebound speed, airflow, transition temperature. I don't even know what that is. Odor. And they really, really, they tried 100 different formulations to get the perfect mattress. And even if it's not perfect for you, you could try it risk-free right now. I think you're going to love it. We love it. In fact, I like it so much. I got one for my son. We got one for our nephew. I mean, everybody loves the Casper. Casper. Wait, I got to show you the unboxing. Casper.com/MacBreak. And here's the special offer we've got just for you because you're listening. You're going to save $50 towards a mattress purchase if you go to Casper.com/MacBreak and you enter the promo code MacBreak. They copied our video. We haven't shown that in a while of me jumping on the mattress, opening it up and jumping on it. Do we still have it? Anyway, I love my Casper. Terms and conditions apply for that $50 deal, and that is towards a mattress purchase, although Casper sells pillows, which I have to say, they say don't mention the pillows. They're really good pillows. Just pretend I didn't say anything. They're really good pillows. They also sell a dog bed, I think, right? Have we got one? We didn't get one for Ozzy. We got to get the Casper. Maybe that's Ozzy's Christmas present. Do they still do that? I can't remember. Casper.com. I guess not. Well, more products. Let's see. /MacBreak. And for the mattress, you can get, yes. I just thought of Ozzy's Christmas present. For the mattress, $50 off when you use the offer code MacBreak. Terms and conditions apply. Why shouldn't Ozzy have a Casper?
Serenity got one for her dog.
Does he or she like it?
I think so.
They come in. Oh, that's a pretty color, and they have it for different sizes. He's a little dog, so I get the little one. That's really cool. All right.
Part of the fun is even just unboxing it,
isn't it?
Like,
yeah.
As a kid, I always wanted to have one of those Navy wraps where you pull the thing and suddenly explodes into shape.
Yeah.
This was close enough.
It is a wonderful, wonderful mattress. We are talking about Apple MacBreak Weekly, the second longest running Macintosh podcast in the world. It might not even be that, Adam, but it's. You're the first. I'll grant you that. MacCasts with Adam Christianson at maccast.com. There's a certain irony in this. Apple, it appears, according to rumors and reports, has taken the team that does the Airport Extreme and moved them over to the Apple TV. And that would make sense in the new Apple that they probably wouldn't make routers anymore. And at the same time, J.D. Power released a study saying it is the #1 customer satisfaction router in the world.
Customer sat
beating Asus, D-Link, TP-Link, Netgear, Belkin, Linksys, of course, on the bottom. 3,037 customers. They measured overall satisfaction, Wi-Fi range, reliability, speed of upload, download, restore connection easily, security capabilities, price, ease of use, variety of features, intuitive user interface, and customer service. And by a fairly large margin, Apple beat the average and became #1 with 876 points out of 1,000.
And it was not, contrary to some FUD, a Cupertino City survey. It was actually
I don't think that's going to change Apple's mind. Bloomberg.
I don't think
Mark
we know
Gurman.
Apple's mind, though. I think that, a lot of times we see the elephant and we're like, oh, tail.
Yeah.
This is clearly a tail. And
Right.
oh, look, big snake. And there really is an elephant. So whether Apple is really getting rid of the routers, whether they're working on a next generation router, they're making their own home hub, they're going to build. I mean, like I said, the rumor is Apple's going to be doing truly wireless charging next year. If you walk into your house and your phone starts charging, what is controlling that? What is it charging from? I mean, there's all sorts of interesting things going on.
Well, does it?
that
Maybe the home hub is now the Apple TV.
Maybe.
And maybe that team moving over to the Apple TV, what if the Apple TV became your router?
Is your router, is your charger,
Right.
is your HomeKit hub?
Well, I think they'd like to sell you a lot of different things rather than roll. It doesn't make as much sense. But considering how exciting the idea of mesh networks is becoming in the home, if Apple were to decide we're going to make everything mesh, and not only does it allow us to deliver a more modern sort of networking experience that works better in more installations, but now it's sort of slipping under the door. It allows us to put, here is a Apple device with radios in it that is inside the bedroom. Here is one that's inside the living room. Here is one that's inside the kitchen. And now not in this creepy way, but now we know where somebody is by virtue of I know their watch is in the living room. So therefore the user is in the living room. How can we improve the experience by knowing that's where somebody is? Can we send alerts instead of to everywhere in the house? Can we send it to expressly the device that they're closest to right now? There are a lot of things that they could do. Rene has a good point that one of the frustrating things about the way Apple works is that they're not going to tell you why they're doing anything. Partly because they themselves don't know what they're going to be doing in a few years. They want to leave their options open, but it does so means that we can all be bemoaning the fact that, oh, look, they're getting out of networking. Why are they getting out of networking? And then come July, they're rolling out this amazing new product that makes me want to throw out the $300 stuff that I bought last year and replace it all with the new Apple stuff.
We're going to do a review, I think, on this new screensavers on Saturday. Dave Hamilton, another Mac podcaster, has them all.
Yeah, he wrote up a great article over on his site,
on Mac Observer. Yeah. And so Dave's going to come on, and I think we're just now getting the Google router. Just came out today. I should be getting mine this week.
I actually set it up about an hour before. Yep, an hour before. I have the 3-unit station. It was the only thing I can say right now is that it's positive that I started setting it up at like 25 minutes before the show started.
Wow.
And it finished it like 5 minutes before. I'm not using this now. I always use wired. But I will say that it was very easy to set up. It's basically self-configuring, and for the first time, I actually have decent Wi-Fi, like here in the podcasting studio. Right. And that's not because I have like one of the mesh pods like here. It's actually another room away. But I have it seems to be working very, very well. It was easy to configure. The box is lovely. It's another box you want to save. But yeah, it's. I like it.
Yeah, we've been using the Eero, and they're a sponsor, by the way. But we've been using the Eero for some time and been very happy with it. But once I get my Google, I'll set it up. I have 2 networks in my house. Don't ask why. Comcast. That's all you need to know.
Comcast, but also Leo.
I ordered Comcast Business Class, and then I thought they would turn off the consumer class, but they didn't. So then I went into the store, because I found that that's a better way to deal with Comcast, and said, hey, I don't want the consumer because I got the business class. They said, well, it's going to cost you. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, it actually costs you more not to get rid of the consumer. So I don't know if I just kept them both. What the hell? But it makes me a perfect test bed for testing side by side. The Apple, or not the Apple. I did use an Airport Extreme until I got the Asus. Been very happy with the Asus AC3200.
Gary Hildenbrand just posted his Google Wi-Fi review on Android Central, and he loved it. He thought, he said they're all good. All the meshes are good, but if you're deeply ensconced in the Google ecosystem, it makes a ton of sense to go with Google Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Mesh gets me really excited because I've tried a lot of different solutions, including, well, what if I set up another Wi-Fi base station separate in the podcast, any place where I have really, really terrible reception? What if I were to plug another Wi-Fi router into a wired Ethernet? Or what if I were to plug in another device but make it into a Wi-Fi extender? And there are always performance trade-offs and things that will start working but stop working because of the topology of the network, because networks really are fundamentally designed to be created and maintained by folks who are experts in networking. Because if you just try to, it'll all work great the day you move into your house and you set everything up. But over the next 3 years, as you add extenders, as you add different drops, as you add switches here and there, suddenly you'll get like a frame drop that lasts for like 10 minutes, and then you don't know why. And you don't fix until you take out everything and rebuild everything to make more common sense. So I like Mesh because it seems to be a better attitude towards how do we extend the size and the range of a Wi-Fi network. We just simply we basically drop a bubble of Wi-Fi that's maintained by multiple sprinkler heads, rather than try to say, well, we've got 3 different soldiers fighting to keep things alive, and some of them are going to be up and some of these are going to be falling on their own swords. So but after 2 hours, nothing has caught on fire yet. So that's my 2-hour review. It's good stuff.
Well, mine's right now in Chicago, Illinois, and will be here in a few days. So I will set it up as well. I do think these mesh solutions are a better solution. And I think if Apple were going to stay in this business, it really would have to offer something.
How many nodes did you get, Leo? How many of the little Wi-Fi
I got the
routers?
3-pack.
Okay,
I have a 3-pack of Eero. But by the way, the Verge review said that the fastest of the 3 was the Orbi, the Netgear mesh. They all, I have to say, they all seem very similar, at least in terms of the internals. I think it really has something, the software is really what's going to be the separating factor. And then there's these little plume things, which are interesting because they're cheap. They're $75, but you're supposed to put one in every room that you want Wi-Fi in. Yeah. And then they hand off. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing David's review because I think he's tried them all.
And then eventually homes will just be built with mesh networks in the walls. And I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Build the infrastructure.
Let's also do a plug for, I'm a big fan. I tweeted something this morning about wired networks because Amazon had a deal on like this really nice 5-port switch that I like a lot. I have like 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in the house. I feel like wired Ethernet is a lot like LED light bulbs, where you will start off by putting it in one place where it makes absolute crystal clear sense. And then over the course of 2 or 3 years, you will wind up putting a switch in every single room, not because it was absolutely necessary, but because now you're not intimidated by cable, and your spouse is no longer upset that there are cables running through the floor, or that you've drilled holes to make cable drops. I don't think anything will ever match the speed and the reliability of just plain old Cat 6 Ethernet.
No, it's really nice. In fact, yeah, if you're building a house, put in hardwire in every room. You'll be happy. In fact, I've been very tempted to have. There's a guy in town who will come out and spend time in my crawl space.
Back hall. Right into the back hall.
Yeah.
My problem there is you're getting less and less places to plug the other end in. So it's great you got it in the wall, but what's it going to run into, especially if you're a Mac owner? I just upgraded to a 2015, and I still don't have. I still got to go out and buy the dongle. And
that's a good point. Nobody has Ethernet anymore, right? Yeah.
And also, one of the reasons why it became such a big issue not having Wi-Fi here is that like I do a lot of stuff that's on my iPad. I like to have like my iPad sort of like as a status screen. And sometimes I just I started writing something in a coffee shop and I just want to continue it here in the iPad. And when I get like one bar that keeps dropping in and out. So, and you also want to have your phone able to automatically connect and do its syncing thing without having to wait for another 3 or 4 days for it to find another spot. So unfortunately it's a wireless world, but it's not necessarily always optimally a wireless world.
It's so interesting how networking, which was really the province of the magic priesthood at work, is now something we are all doing. Dr. Mom said, well, one of the reasons the Orbi looks better, it's got 4 Ethernet ports on the back, so you don't have to buy as many hubs. And I just responded, well, I ended up buying 2 24-port TP-Link switches because it was just easier to have 24, really 48 ports. Yeah. But that's because on my home theater, I want everything wired.
Exactly. Right. And so it keeps getting like worse and worse because I finally had to upgrade the switch in my bedroom because it finally went from it started getting so crazy that I need to have Ethernet for like my laptop on the nightstand in case I want to stay in bed for 6 hours but still work. And now I've have 3 different network devices on the TV, and that's why it's like if I'm going to try to keep all of this managed on Wi-Fi versus all I got to do is remind myself not to trip over that big Ethernet cable that's nailed to the header board on the stairs going up. I would much rather have Ethernet. And now there's almost no room that I spend more than 30 minutes sitting in any given day that does not have an Ethernet hub in it.
Well, you need both, really. You need Wi-Fi for your
switch.
Mac.
If only they could make a portable Ethernet. I mean, that would just be great.
Well, but this is why these mesh hubs, I think, are as a high category, because we really do rely on speedy Wi-Fi, and
it's gotten to the point where you don't have Wi-Fi, you just feel like power's out or like the phones aren't working. It's like utility is now missing.
Yeah. Now in the United States, we need better internet. That would be the next thing, to get some decent internet. I think that's probably true in Canada too. You guys,
Internet 3.0.
Yeah,
our internet's fine. It's expensive.
I finally bit the bullet. I should have done this ages ago, and bought a big Synology 5-bay hard, array and I'm going to get 2 of them. I have one at work and one at home because they'll sync with each other. And then back up the Macs to it, use it for, instead of Dropbox, use its share capabilities as a Dropbox. Instead of Evernote, Plex. Use its note capability. I don't think I'll use it as a media server so much. I know a lot of people do. Yeah. But I finally just said, you know what? I've been doing it, bits and pieces. I just need a effective overall strategy, I think, at this point.
A NAS is the Synology that I bought 3 years ago. That's got to be, in terms of bang for the dollar, I can't think of a single other thing that I bought where year after year, as I think of new things I would like to do, I will find, there's an answer somewhere in the Synology
it's pretty amazing.
NAS that I have got there. Yeah. I mean, as I decided that I'm going to ditch, God, how do I ditch iTunes? Oh, well, I can actually set up Synology to do that. How do I ditch like cable? Okay, well, I can actually set up Synology as my TV server.
Even for security cameras,
Yeah. For security cameras, for even for how do I make sure that I can get access to this no matter where I am in the world? And I'm thinking that, here's a wonderful custom service and device that will put my photos in here and there and everywhere, and it doesn't work. And then I belatedly realized that, or I could download this free Synology Photos app that will that be through the central service will find my NAS and connect me to all of my documents and all of my movies and all my. Oh, okay. I actually spent $300 3 years ago, and that's really all I ever needed to spend on this. Okay, got that. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
The time machine for people who are worried about the loss of the time capsule. The time machine integration with the Synology has, for me, worked great. It's been a great solution because my kids won't plug into anything. They're like, ew, the cable, and I need to back up their stuff.
But they can have their own Synology account, and it's a time machine backup.
Yep.
The one thing I heard, and I haven't, I feel like I'm the last man to this party. The one thing I've heard is that you can't do that magic, the thing that comes up with the stars field going backwards, and you can go back in time. It does have versioning, but it doesn't allow you to do that. Is that?
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I won't miss that. In fact, I don't use Time Machine, but I think I might because that's a really good.
It's a nice extra. You already have your backup strategy, and it's just, it's a redundant extra.
Exactly.
That's very low effort.
It's funny because I asked Lisa this morning. I said, "So I'm getting this thing. Do you need backup?" She said, "No, I do everything in the cloud." And that's the reason this is kind of even this is going to be obsolete for most people because they use Evernote or they use Gmail or they use iCloud, and so they don't. Lisa doesn't worry about backing up anymore because all her documents are in the cloud. I still would back up if I were.
Yeah, you're kind of trusting.
I had this thing yesterday where iCloud was down for a while, and at the exact same time,
iCloud was down, right?
But I had the same, Gmail was coming back as can't find SMTP, can't find IMAP. And so I was bombed off of email for about an hour and a half yesterday before Gmail came up, before iCloud did, but I just couldn't use anything. And I was another stark reminder that this cloud stuff is wonderful until something happens and you really need something.
That's that, and then just kind of overall concern about security, privacy, and so forth is kind of prompted me to start looking. Now, this has been a year-long process of looking at different ways to run my own cloud. And I've been using Sandstorm, which I really like. But once I realized that Disk Station Manager does all of the things, including because it supports Docker, you can add anything that Docker supports, which is everything. I mean, you could run your website from here. You could do everything from here. So
my only thing on it is, it is fairly easy, but I would say it's not.
It's geeky.
Not
no.
Mom
Yeah.
My mom does not know what to do with it. But anybody with reasonable computer skills, I think, can handle it.
It's basically a Linux machine.
Yeah.
That's basically
it's just optimized for NAS
with lots of disks.
but what might scare people off, we should tell people that when I want to do something with my NAS, it is I open up I click a link on that I've bookmarked, and I basically am looking at a GUI desktop with windows and icons, and it really is just like using a modern GUI-based desktop, running apps, and whenever I want to update something, it's not really different from going to the App Store and clicking a link to update software. The only things that become a little bit hairy are when you have to install stuff that's not part of the package manager, not part of the App Store, so to speak. And even that's just you download it and then you point this piece of software on the NAS to please install this or please update this. But there are a lot of things that have been going through my mind over the past few weeks, and one of them is how concerned should I be about having even more than usual, should I be more concerned about having my data on Dropbox or on a shared cloud system versus a box that I control by myself? And if I wanted to unplug it and take it off the internet completely for a couple of days, I could actually do that literally by pulling a plug, and now nothing can actually get at this data. And it's always the balance between how confident am I that Dropbox will tell somebody to go to hell without if they ask for my data without the proper paperwork to say yes, you are you have a court order, you have a warrant, there's all this stuff, versus it's easier for us to just give this person access to Andy's stuff, versus how bad will if I'm the security officer of my NAS, how bad a job will I do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Would you at least for me, I'd prefer Google does this. than me.
Because I'm not a political dissident. I'm a journalist, but I don't write negative things about the Syrian government or anything like that. So I don't believe I'm a hacking target. But these are things that kind of get on your mind when you when you realize
who are these people? Who is Synology, and where are they located? I mean, you're also somewhat trusting them to keep
and the firmware and any packages they might have gotten off open source. And
I feel like I just discovered the Beatles. You guys are going. Yeah.
But you raise an interesting point. Like, remember when there was all the controversy about some countries that might let BlackBerry, like, it might give their governments access to the BlackBerry Squid servers, and Microsoft was all too happy to point out, well, you can't do that with Exchange because every node is separate. You'd have to go after every single business that runs an Exchange server. And this is similar to me. It's possible someone might eventually do a grand interception of everything on Google or everything on iCloud or everything on Microsoft. But if you're running your own NAS in your house, that's something that they have to literally go box by box by box by box to get to.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a single attack surface, is it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just I haven't done anything with it yet, so this isn't a review, although look, there you got 3 people using it. That's a sign. Yeah. Do you use it too, Rene?
Yeah, I have one right here.
Really, I feel like, well, duh.
Yeah. And just to underscore this, when I first bought it, I only bought it as a way to have a big file server. I did not buy it for any other reason than I want to have like a central file server that will have that will store files, because I didn't want to have to keep a Mac running 24/7 to do that. And then it's just as I say, it's like every 3 months, I'm like, gee, I really would love to do this. Like, oh, that's right, I can actually do that on the NAS.
And
it's one of those things, once you have it, you find another use for it. So like I do web development, and I've always set up websites locally on my Mac, for doing development. And it's got Docker on there. I can throw all kinds of stuff at it and set up, virtualized environments all day long.
It supports Node.js. It supports Tomcat, Apache. I mean, it's kind of an amazing thing.
Also, I feel like a big networking stud that I have this.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. When I see my 24, buy a 24-port switch, you want to feel like a stud, and the lights blink, and you go, I don't know what's going on, but I got quite a closet.
Look at all those blinking lights. The consumer version of that switch doesn't have nearly as many blinking lights as that one, and the case is made of metal.
Metal. Let's take a break. Come back with more Andy Anakos, Chicago Sun-Times, Rene Ritchie, imore.com, the wonderful Adam Christianson, maccast.com. Our show today brought to you by Gazelle. As you eyeball all the cool new gadgets that could be in your life, do not forget that you can sell the old gadget at Gazelle, Gazelle.com. You can go in to Gazelle.com and get a quote now that's guaranteed for 30 days. You're not locked in, they are. And that's really nice. That means you have 30 days to decide to get the new gadget. Nowadays, it sometimes does take a while to set it up, transfer it over, make sure you're happy, and then pull the trigger. Gazelle pays the shipping on anything worth more than $1. They turn it around fast. If you can't or forget to wipe the data, they'll do that for you. They even buy broken iPhones and iPads. They'll give you a good price for those even. At Gazelle.com. Payments come in cash, via check, PayPal, or Amazon gift card. If you could, if you're going to buy a Synology NAS, just get all those Amazon gift cards because they bump it up by 5%, even better. You can also buy a Gazelle, and this is something relatively new. Gazelle takes the very best pre-owned devices in only a couple of categories. iPhones from the 6S and the 6S Plus, iPads, Samsung Galaxy phones, and after a very rigorous 30-point inspection, we'll sell it to you at a very affordable price. You get to choose the quality, so slightly used, like new. Every device is backed by a 30-day return policy, and of course it works with the major carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, but there's no carrier contract. That's awfully nice. They also provide financing now through a firm, and they can do that at checkout. So you just check the box, provide some basic information, and you can get financing. They also offer 12-month warranties for cell phones and iPads powered by Assurance Solutions that cover the usual, but also water damage, cracked screens, hardware defects, and more. Gazelle, to buy or to sell, it's got to be Gazelle. It's the smart way recycle and to do a good thing for the environment. And we love them. Gazelle.com. We were mentioning the Synology. One of the options is Calendar. You can use it instead of Google Calendar. I probably won't, or iCloud Calendar, but at least you probably don't get iCloud Calendar spam on your Synology NAS. What's been going on, Rene? That is wild.
So I actually got the double whammy. Most people got one or the other, but I got the double whammy. So for a while now, we've all known about email spam, and that is, people just send you unsolicited email messages. But we're getting better and better. Services like Gmail and all sorts of other solutions are giving you ways to block those. So at some point, it seems like very recently in the last few weeks, spammers decided, hey, email's getting harder. Let's try other stuff. And one of the things they tried was iCloud calendar spam. So what they basically do is just start adding you to calendar invites. And as long as they have their email address, those calendar invites send push notifications. And you can, decline it, but then they get an email back. And I managed to avoid this one, but at the same time, I started getting Google Docs spam, because it turns out as long as you know someone's Gmail address, you can add them to Docs folders. And I opened up my Gmail actually to look at MacBreak Weekly last week, and there was 30 entries for parts availability from China for all sorts of things like screens and radios. And both those things just started bombing us back to the early days of the internet.
So I actually had this problem at one point, maybe a year or two ago, with Google Calendars through Google Plus. People were able to invite me to their Google Plus event, even though I had no interest in it, and it showed up on my calendar, which was incredibly
annoying. Facebook groups were like that for a while too.
Yeah. So the solution, I think, is the same in all three cases, which is to not have. This is from iMore, and a good article at iMore by Lori Gill. Apple is apparently working on this. In fact, they've even contacted some of our listeners saying, give us more information about this spam so we can help fight it. But I think Apple's plan is to treat it like spam and block the sources. This would block it from going into your calendar. You go into the calendar settings, click on the advanced window, and check the box that says email to... And it will then it makes them, you still are going to get them, but they'll go into your email account where they'll presumably be spamified.
And some people have said that if they block calendar invites through apps, that is fixed it, because maybe some people are using apps to send these mass calendar invites. What I would like is an ability to restrict it. Like I think all this is well and good, but I would like, for example, to say only allow calendar invites from contacts. And maybe that'll cause me to miss out on some, but 99% of the time I'm getting calendar invites from people I already know.
I do have to say I got some great deals on Ray-Bans, but no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And Apple says we're actively identifying and blocking senders now. This was a statement to you, actually, at iMore. We're sorry that some of our users are receiving spam calendar invitations. We're actively working to address this issue by identifying and blocking suspicious senders and spam in the invites. So that is one way to do that. This is from Rene's Twitter account. Yeah. That is one way to do it, but I think ultimately a two-pronged approach.
I'm sure Apple will be on top of this now. The other thing I've noticed is, though, since that it's kind of right around Black Friday when these things showed up, and I didn't really change any of the settings, and I haven't seen any since, knock on wood. Hopefully that's Apple doing whatever they're doing on their side.
Okay, good. So
it kind of shows you, like,
guys.
Yeah.
I've got way less. I thought that the Google had actually fixed the doc spam. Then I got one yesterday randomly, and I'm hoping that's just. But it's hard. This stuff is a non-trivial problem to solve, because anyone who operated any sort of software on the earliest internet knows that you cannot establish a feature that people can't figure out a way to sort of take advantage of for their own benefit.
Yeah, on the face of it, the idea that somebody could email a calendar invite to you and have it appear in your calendar is kind of. But every calendar allows that, because in business that's a very common use.
Yeah.
Outlook and Exchange servers and all of that. That's how it works, and it's really useful. I get a lot of calendar invites from work, right, to conference calls and go to meetings and things. And so the disadvantage to me is I'm going to have to turn those off because people have figured out a way to spam it.
We use Google Docs for my job. And we just add
Exactly.
and people not on our network. I'll share the doc with you, and as long as you know their email address, it just works. And now they're going to have to find a way of making that not work as easily for me, and I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I have a combination of rage and depression over this because it kind of gets me in that kind of moody emo teenager point of view that there is nothing so wonderful that humans can create that another human looks at it and thinks there must be a way I can wreck this for everybody.
It feels like that's getting worse. Like there's more people who are willing to be jerks on the internet than there used to be. Is that true, or is it more of the jerks are getting internet savvy? Yeah,
they have more access to jerks.
More people on the internet means the percentage of jerks goes up along with the overall users.
And their ability to interact with us is skyrocketing.
Stop being jerks.
Yeah,
actually, none of the jerks listen to this show, so we're...
The access points are increasing exponentially. The vectors, the attack vectors just go up exponentially every day.
It does feel like the internet has, to some degree, given people a license to be doofuses.
Right. Now you're putting your refrigerators and your washing machines on there. So
it's increased their range.
How about the battery issues with the MacBook Pro? Last week I used my new MacBook Pro with a touch bar on the show. Now, I was using Chrome, and it lasted just as long as the show, about 2 hours for the 15-inch. That's, of course, way below what it's supposed to be. But I do think it's Chrome because I started using Safari on it, and the battery life is much, much better.
I think there's two things going on there. One is I think their API is seriously out of its mind right now. And I did check with a few people who are used to it, and it goes, it'll report like 14 hours and then 3 hours and then 16 hours. Maybe we should just say after 10 hours, it's just 10 hours. So I think that, Apple needs, whatever's gone wrong with that, Apple needs to fix, because if you think you have 14 hours and then it's told 4 hours, you lose faith with the entire system. And the other thing is that it's like same thing with phones. A phone, when they measured performance before, it was based on standard internet usage. And you can go back to the early days of Google or Apple talking about battery life, and they thought you were surfing the web and reading your emails. And now we're Snapchatting and Pokemon Go and Facebook. And these are much, much heavier battery consuming apps. And the same thing is true on laptops. We're running all sorts of video editing software. Slack, to me, has been just as bad as Chrome. Slack never used to be a problem, but now Slack is running audio APIs, and it's basically an encapsulated browser, and it's hitting my battery like nobody's business. And we have to come to terms with the fact that these apps are draining more. So I think Apple has to sort of rejigger how they measure battery life in a modern context.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm also a little leery anytime a new machine comes out and it's the first couple of weeks to take too much, to put too much on these, because even Apple themselves now with the operating system, you migrate your stuff over and there's like all these kinds of background processes going on. If you're using iCloud photo library, it's indexing your drives, it's doing all this other stuff, right? So I think things need to calm down a little bit. I think there is maybe something here because I've had a couple people, when I talked about this on my show, email me and say, I got 2 or 3 hours. So I think it's a combination of some software things, new machine, and some of the other things that Rene mentioned.
Rev A board. Rev A board. You never want the first of anything.
I never know. I don't know how we feel about a lot of this stuff where I admire the fact that Apple keeps trying to figure out how to extend the battery life any way possible. If there's an extra 20 minutes they can squeeze out of an app just by changing a new API or having it behave in a certain fashion, you never know when that's going to be the 20 minutes that allows somebody to finish their dock and send it before a deadline, before the battery finally goes the place of ghosts and winds. On the other hand, we don't want a situation where there's a conditional to every single battery life statement that Apple makes where, are you not using the Apple branded browser? Oh, there you go. You need to use the Apple branded browser. Or, they're using Microsoft Office. Oh, I'm sorry, that's an edge case. If you switch to iWork, however, you'll find that you won't have it. Okay, but what if I want to use the software that I want to use? Nonetheless, I appreciate them finding places to save battery life for everybody. Sometimes I wish that there were a way that they could sort of pull out, here's how we came to that number, here's how much it works with optimized software, here's how well it works with non-optimized software, or even if it were just them bagging the gong of here's how hard we work, here's how much work we put into the Safari browser to make it hammer the battery much less than our competitors' browsers. I think that should be surfaced a little bit better than they're doing right now.
And people are getting really different results. Like I get about 8 hours consistently on the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar, and I've been testing that. That's the one I traveled to Petaluma with, and I was using all the time. And it's less than they told me. They told me 10 hours, and yeah, I'm running Slack. But again, if they're saying if the Apple Intel message is we're not making computers more powerful, we're making them more efficient, then they've got to show me that efficiency. Otherwise, that message is simply not true. So if they say 10 hours of battery, we've got to be getting 10 hours of battery. And yeah, maybe it's 9 hours if you're running Chrome or whatever. That's still within.
Yeah, I haven't been getting great battery life. Is there anything we can do?
The 15-inch is different.
Yeah.
So the 15-inch has the discrete graphics, and what Apple does is use both the integrated and the discrete graphics, and it's going to default to integrated graphics to try to save you power. Right. But when that discrete graphics comes up, it's got to power that separate card. And in some cases, that's what you want because you want fast Final Cut rendering. But in some cases, apps are just rendering to the buffer, to make text scroll better. Like I remember the original version of Tweety for Mac was kicking in the discrete GPU all the time, even though probably really didn't have to. So anytime that discrete GPU hits, but it shouldn't be 2 hours. That's way off.
So it's not a hardware issue, and it's something that could be fixable in software over time, you think?
I hope so. And again, these are brand new machines, and a lot of old timers will say don't buy Rev A boards, but I think it's more like if you buy a brand new machine immediately, there will be hiccups as a million people find all the problems that no QA department in the world could find. And if they don't react quickly and they don't update it quickly, then that's an issue. But as long as they're responsive and they're looking into it, I think it's good.
Basically, what I do now is whenever I'm around a Type-C connector of any kind, I just plug it in to see what happens, and usually it charges it. So.
Well, that's what Steve was saying. His iPads are always plugged in.
Yeah. So it's less of a pain point for me. But if I were traveling with it, I might be a little more perturbed.
I made the whole flight without any issue. It was 6.5 hours, and I still had plenty of battery left when I got off.
Now, what I didn't know, and this is from 905 Mac, is that they default now to scaled non-native Retina screen display. Is that true?
Yep. Yeah, I verified this because somebody brought this to my attention, and I did some research on it. I don't know that it's a huge issue. It's just an interesting change. So when you're on that default setting, I forget the numbers. It's looks like
it says 1680 by 1050.
Yeah, and if you drop down one level from there, I think you end up on what would be the 2-to-1 sort of.
So it's the native is 2880 by 1800. So if you dropped down, you'd be 1440 by 900. But that's not even 1080p. And so, but I haven't noticed it looks bad, but I am a little perturbed that it's scaled.
They've been scaling. So they've for the last, I forget it was Mountain or before Mountain, they did a really, really good desktop scaler they started using because Apple originally wanted to go to resolution independence, but everyone realized that was a beautiful, beautiful dream that was never going to be a reality, which is why they started going to Retina. But it's the same scaler they use in the iPhone. I believe it's the same scaler they use in the iPhone Pluses, which are internally 4x, but are 3x, but are dropped down to 1080p for the screen.
I also kind of resent it that they don't let me, they've really dumbed down this control panel. And this has been for some time, and all it says is,
best for Retina,
best whatever. It doesn't even say that anymore. It says default for display or scaled, and it chooses. So
more space.
I would love to have a setting that says, well, I just like to see 1-to-1 dot for dot. What does that look like? Now I've done it before because third-party utilities let you do it, and it's unusable because everything's so tiny. But sometimes you'd want that. Now, because it's a high DPI display, apps like Lightroom and Photoshop, when you're looking at a photo, do go 1-to-1. It's so confusing.
And so does OpenGL.
I guess that's why they do this, is because they don't worry, we'll take care of this for you. Right?
I mean, yeah. So their audience is increasing. Again, like the Mac audience is hugely different now than it was even 5 or 10 years ago, where most people buy notebooks. Most people don't connect external. Single digit 1% of people connect external displays and worry about this kind of stuff.
Is there any reason we shouldn't go into our display settings and do 1400 by 900, which is an even division of the full native resolution? Wouldn't that look better? And Photoshop would still give you 1-to-1.
If you are someone like Lauren Brichter or Michael like people who could see tiny pixels and frames dropping and half scan lines, it'll annoy you and you'll want to change it. But for the vast majority of people, it makes no difference. And 900 is not a lot of pixels in vertical height on a web page, so it doesn't really show you a lot of information. So most people are better off with the scaled version.
I think the fact that this happened when these new machines came out, and we're just talking about it now, a couple weeks later.
We didn't notice.
And nobody really noticed this. It says a lot about the quality of the scaler that Apple put in there, and probably went into their decision going, this is probably okay to do because the majority of people, it's not going to matter.
Here's how. So I have a high DPI display in front of me. This is the Surface Studio from Microsoft. And it's 4,500 by 3,000. I mean, it's super high resolution, but it's 20. So here's what they do with the control panel. Change the size of text and other items, 200% recommended. That's that screen doubling. So it is equally kind of dumbed down, but you can go then to advanced display settings and see actual resolution and choose actual resolution. And I kind of would like some solution a little bit like that, right?
Or maybe a real time where you could actually see a simulation of what the differences are. Because I still don't know if the numbers are really,
yeah, no, they're not
opaque to people.
Yeah, but
so maybe like have a screen next to it and show the text getting bigger, getting smaller, the amount of information you could.
I mean, Microsoft, I presume Apple does. I can't remember. No, they don't do the same thing. When you change the resolution on a Windows display, it says, and Linux does this too. Okay, what do you think? Do you like this? Keep it, or should we revert? Because it's unlike a Mac, it's conceivable in Windows and Linux that you could change it to a resolution that actually doesn't even work.
Yes.
And so the screen will go blank, so it gives you 15 seconds to say, yeah, apply these settings, or just revert because I can't see anything. I'm using, I guess I'm not using high DPI here, or maybe I am. I don't. All of these guys do this. They kind of they fudge it.
There's a huge amount of thinking in terms of interface design that implementation details shouldn't be something that it just causes us pain. Like we don't need to know there's 2 cameras in the iPhone 7 Plus because they're logically treated like 1 camera. It's an implementation detail. Stop worrying about it. Stop worrying about how we do the screen doubling. It's dense, okay? It's dense. You'll like it. Use it.
So because I'm mirroring, I just set this. So this is not what I wanted, and now you can't see it, right? But it says, do you want to keep these display settings? Reverting in 9 seconds. No, I don't want to keep these. This is clearly not the right display settings for me. And I've gone back, thank God. So it is possible to screw it all up in this manner. I don't know. I'm an old timer. I like a computer I can screw up. Give me a computer.
Find the POSIX control for the screen resolution.
Give me a computer I can really ruin. So
terminal, change it.
Our advice would be maybe play with it and see. Do the. Is that the middle one, which is the half DPI would be this one in the middle, or?
Yeah, and you can try
to hover over it.
I can't. I'm not on a Mac. I'm on a Windows machine. But I'm thinking that's the one you want, right? I don't know.
So I would try it, and if you find the text is too small for you to read, go make it a little bit bigger. And if you find you're using Photoshop or the web, you just can't see enough stuff, then make it a little.
What if we just set it default for display? I mean, that's how it used to be.
Well, the new default is that's the point of this whole thing. Is the new default is the
scaled. Yeah. But these systems are better than they used to be. It used to be you'd never wanted a scaled, 1.3 times or.
Most people won't notice. They're so small, the pixels.
Nowadays.
And this is only on I believe is only on the new 2016 machines.
Right.
So the 2016
Yeah, they
MacBook
changed it just for the new ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why people are like, what?
At first, I went back and forth. Whenever I was on the web, I would have the bigger text. And then when I would switch to Photoshop or Final Cut, I would go to the bigger display again. And then I just got tired of switching. It was fine. I accepted it.
Yeah.
Learned helplessness.
All right. Well, there you go.
But some people can see it. Like some people on the iPhone 7 Plus, they can't. They have a hard time because they see the flicker and the scroll. I can't.
I will see it now. I didn't see it before, but I know I'll see it now.
You'll imagine it. Even if you don't see it,
I'll imagine it. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, why'd you tell me that? Users are also, as long as we're doing the rundown of what's wrong with the new MacBook Pros, which, by the way, I know I do say that the Touch Bar is not as useful as I was hoping, but overall I really like the new MacBook Pros. Some are saying there's graphics issues, predominantly on the 15-inch, which has the Radeon, AMD Radeon in it, right?
Just take it back. If you have any issue with any part of the computer, I mean, Andy said this many times, take it back right away.
Okay, so this is not a universal problem. This is just some of them.
I haven't had it on any of mine. I've got 3 of them sitting here.
And it's also, according to this article from Mac Rumors, it's crashing while transcoding video with Premiere Pro, which is probably a very small number of users do that.
But again, if it is you, you have the absolute right to take that thing back and make me happy.
Yeah, and demonstrate it.
A lot of people don't know that Apple does have a 14-day no questions asked return policy. So long as you have all the packaging, so long as it looks like you haven't dragged it behind a truck or even a Tonka truck, they will give you a full refund.
Here's what you should be looking for. If it does that,
that's not normal.
You should not be happy.
You weren't using it for underwater photography. That's not normal.
It's flickering. It's blinking. It's
As much as I keep honking on about how users should have the power to make their own decisions, make their own choices, to my right here, I've got the screen of a Linux computer that has a dead black screen because I tried to install a desktop manager that I didn't know how to install.
I've done that.
And now I'm gonna have to like do a lot of SSH behind the scenes. Yeah. All that stuff that I told you to do last night, please pretend I didn't.
John, how many times have I trashed my Linux box now? And this twice. Twice. The first time I started. This is why Linux is great, because you can do this, but it's also horrible because you can do this. I wanted to set up LVM, the Linux volume manager, or actually logical volume manager, to allow me to extend the volume and then have a third volume for snapshotting, because it does snapshotting. And I went halfway through it, and then I forgot that I'd only gotten halfway through, and I went home, and then I rebooted the machine, and of course it was very confused and nothing happened. So the nice thing is easy to install, reinstall it, and then for some reason I really won't understand. I chose the ZFS file system. Well, I know, because I wanted it, because I thought this is going to be cool. And that something went horribly wrong there after a while. So now I'm just using ext4, and it's just normal, and I'm not doing LVM or anything. Speaking of which, where's APFS?
2017.
But is it making progress? Has anybody got the beta? Are they updating the beta? Have we made any progress? I fear this is going to be like pink, right?
No, I don't think so, because they're putting it into everything. It's going everything from Apple Watch to all the way up to
They need it because this. So if it were just Macs, yes, they'd probably abandon it. But it's going to be for everything, and it is a modern. Yeah. We're talking about the new modern Apple file system that does all the cool things that ZFS does.
Yeah, snapshotting and cloning. And I would normally jump on this, but file systems is like one of the few things that I will stay away from until it is a more public-facing beta.
And as Apple themselves point out, HFS Plus, which we use, and HFS's predecessor, are more than 30 years old. These were file systems created in the era of floppies and 1024 cylinder hard drives, and we're tricking hard drives at this point to put anything more than 500 megs on it or whatever it is, and it's about time, and with flash drives and everything, we had a modern file system that also, really importantly, focused on data integrity with things like checksumming and snapshots. And so copy on write, all of this will happen sometime next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like it's non-trivial. It's like putting new people, like putting an iPhone on an AI, it's not going to be a problem, because people will just buy their new iPhone and it'll just have this, and they'll copy their data over, and Apple will figure it out in the background. It'll be fine. But anyone migrating their Mac to this, that has to just work. There's zero room. And of course, there's going to be all sorts of errors, and we'll have lots of great discussions about how we completely blew the migration to Apple file system. But it is one of those things where it behooves them to take their time. That's why I think they introduced it at WWDC 6 months, before they were even thinking about migrating us there. And it's super interesting in the context of our earlier conversation about routers, because once you have this technology on every Apple device, what does that mean for iCloud and for things like desktop and documents and iCloud sync and iCloud backup and all of that? Because suddenly that is probably way more accessible to a wider range of Apple devices. And they're great at doing this fusion stuff now, which used to be called Nearline, where you have some stuff on local storage that's fast and available, and some stuff on the cloud that's a click away, and sort of blurring the lines between those two things. And I think Apple file system gets super interesting in that world.
Yeah. I've been looking for more, recent posts since June, because that's when Apple announced it. There haven't been a whole lot, although here's a piece that came out yesterday. No, it says 10 November. That's the future. Here's a piece from the future. What day is today? How could this be coming out on the 10th of November? Is that some sort of British time?
That was last month.
Oh, this is December? Oh my God, when did that happen? I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. This is from the Register. New features could shake up how Mac OS machines are manage. This is specifically for Mac administrators. And, of course, one of the biggest things is the Apple File System, or APFS. And this is a video from Black Hat. Anyway, I think this is all going to be very interesting. But I am curious, what its current status is. So if anybody's working on this or using it, I'd be very curious, where does APFS stand? And also, they're going to introduce a new system called Mobile Device Management for managing iOS devices that will be kind of an intermediate interface to this stuff that sysadmins will have to also deal with. One of the things people have said about APFS is it makes everything more iOS-like.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't know if that's a fair...
I mean, the way you think about... Sorry.
I was just going to just more modern in general. It's not that Apple is moving the. It's not as though Apple's making this huge advances. There are these concepts that have been around forever, where you get things like versioning and rollbacks for free, and being able to deal with infinite volumes for free, and not have it shoehorned into an operating system that is still shocked that you're upset that you have to swap out 400K floppies every 3 times every time you want to save a document. So it's not, I mean, it's if people are, that shouldn't be a flag about anything in particular. Although, as Rene says, it's nice to have every single device that Apple makes on the same page and how to get a blob of data moved from one place to another and stored someplace permanently. It makes a lot of things super, super easy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of like Swift. Like there was this school, like, what's Apple going to do? They can't just buy Next again and have their next generation thing. But slowly, step by step, they announced Swift, and then Swift is going to go across their entire range of products, and then APFS is going to go across their entire range of products, and there'll be more of those. Like, it looks like interesting things with Core Data and all these other systems that they're working on, and then piece by piece, you end up being a modern operating system. And I know some people fear iOS, but like iOS is not just iOS. iOS is also a modern approach to architecting all these things. If Apple could start over today and re-architect, they do things even differently, I imagine, than iOS. So sometimes new is just new, and it's not new because it's iOS or new because it's different than the Mac. It's just we thought about this for many years. We've got this experience now, and we're making something better. And yes, it'll happen to be on both our products.
We've been talking a lot, Adam, on the show about, Wither Macintosh, Wither Mac OS, and, it seems fairly clear Apple's kind of turning its back. And I would love to see, you're a developer, I would love to see Apple go all in, presuming that, okay, look, everybody, ultimately touch-first devices, iOS devices, are going to be our bread and butter, the consumer system. But we still would like to serve the professionals and the developers in the world. What if they just went all on a Mac OS being like a really hardcore, developer-focused, professional-focused operating system? A Solaris. Just something really super hardcore. And APFS would be one of the things you would do. I would love that.
I think a lot of people would love that.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the very vocal parts of the community are saying.
And then just build expensive but super powerful high-end machines for the trucks. Make trucks. If you're going to make trucks. Yeah.
I mean, I think they will. I don't know. 2017, I think, is going to be a big
we'll see.
sign for what happens. I think 2016 you kind of got to throw out a little bit because things just didn't line up for them in terms of what they probably should have built and what they did. I've been saying on my show I almost feel like they should have waited even on the MacBook Pros, but I think they just felt they had to get something out the door in 2016. I don't know if it was the right move or not, because everybody was screaming for a new machine, and now they're upset because it wasn't exactly what they wanted.
They're kind of in the position that Microsoft was in with Windows 8, where they're straddling. In this case, they're straddling consumer and professional. And it's hard when you're straddling and they're separating. Your legs get farther and farther apart. Pretty soon you fall in. They're going to have to choose. And I think they have a very reasonable kind of roadmap for the consumer products that are pretty much iOS. I would love to see, maybe even spin off a division, or they're big enough, they're rich enough they could do this.
I don't know that the org chart thing is the right solution, and I haven't really discounted Apple on this front. Again, I'm wanting to wait and see what happens in 2017.
But let's nudge them. Now is the time to nudge them.
Oh, absolutely.
Before they commit.
But I think they are getting nudged. I mean, if
They
you
are,
look
aren't
at the
they?
stories that are being written and what people are saying in, the pro video and the photography and all those communities that you're talking about, the developer community, they're saying loud and clear, don't forget us. We're still here. We want these machines and we want this technology. And some of them are starting to move. So I think Apple either needs to pay attention to that and do something, or I think they're going to turn around and find that this large core of vocal people, who are also the people, by the way, I think that heavily influence the consumer sides of things. They're going to be looking at other platforms and systems. It's starting to now. I'm not really worried about it, but if Apple does choose that, this is how we're going to continue things, I think they may turn around at some point and find a lot of those people are gone, and what that means overall for the future of the Macintosh, that is a little bit scary to me.
Yeah, I feel as though it's sort of like an A or they're at a crossroads right now where there is no right answer to this. But they can choose between the goal of being the technological breadbasket for the world, which means that they would have to broaden their scope. They'd have to make some things that maybe they don't want to make. They'd have to, create more high performance. Create hardware that's not necessarily for the 80% of the users out there. Create the hardware that's not necessarily going to generate 40% profit margins, or they can decide to become a niche brand. And oftentimes niche is used as a slander term, but I don't mean it that way. They can simply say, we are okay with not having the sort of influence that we used to have. We're okay with not being able to change the world to whatever extent that a large company can change the world. We are going to be content in making the half dozen products that we really, really can be fanatical about. And if credibly some people could say that the world is passing us by, we're okay with that, because we will still make the best phone, we will still make the best tablet, we will still make the best watch that's out there, and people will appreciate that this is the best made laptop you can buy. It's A or B, and I think that they're having a hard time trying to pretend to be both companies, and I think they're going to have to choose to be about being one or the other soon.
There's also something really interesting going on where, and there's a couple of really bad analogies I'm going to make, knowing that they're bad analogies. When Apple TV was updated and there was no Bluetooth keyboard support, my Twitter feed was filled with it. You'd think everyone in the universe was really upset by this. And it turns out almost nobody uses it, to the extent that when WWDC happened, nobody was using it because it was only Apple TV developers who ever used the thing. But if you go by your Twitter feed or people talking on podcasts, it was a major problem, and Apple was abandoning a really important piece of functionality. And the same thing with the display. I really am upset that Apple's not making an Apple display. I think it's a mistake. I think that the display is to the computer what the interface is to the app. It's it's what you look at, and Apple not owning that experience, I think opens them up to, well, have an LG display. Why can't I get an LG computer? It's something I don't think that they should want any part of, but it's something that they seem to be willing to cede. But at the same time, it's low single-digit percentages of people who buy these displays. Almost everybody. Again, a bad analogy. Everybody says they watch PBS, but when you switch from Nielsen cards to Nielsen computers, turns out almost nobody watches it.
Yeah.
Well, we vote with our wallets. We buy Apple notebooks, and
but yes, pros and advanced users are a small number. They're not going to move the needle in purchases.
They're a tiny percentage of it that we online distort beyond that, because it's our echo chamber. But
I do think we have to acknowledge that they have an import to the ecosystem. I mean, it's more than they have an importance larger than their numbers, larger even than their economic value to the ecosystem.
That's why I think they should keep making money. I think it's incredibly important. And I think Apple is having, to Andy's point, Apple, I think, is having this exact argument. I think they're probably in a room screaming at each other saying, we need to make this display. No, we don't. We need to keep the desktops. Some of the stuff is more complicated. It's easy on the internet, but some of it's more complicated. Like, they didn't update the iMac for the first time in several years in October, but how would they update the iMac? Intel has stopped making the chip for the 21.5 inch. The chips that they use for the 27 inch, they could put USB-C, Thunderbolt 3, and make that the only change, but that's a pretty disappointing iMac update to have this year, and they get railed for having a crappy
you what they should do.
iMac update.
No. I'm not worried about the iMac. They should re-release the cheese grater, the older Mac Pro with slots,
with room for how many drives? 8 drives with ample
gorgeous
upgrade capabilities. That is what a pro wants. They don't want the trash can Mac. We put up with the 5K iMac because it's an amazing display, to your point. But what we really want is a cheese grater Mac. We want that Mac Pro that we can upgrade it and upgrade it for years to come. Right?
Well, I would just say that the big problem is that it's not so much that there's an entire single market that's being ignored. It's that, I mean, to pick up on Rene's not at all crappy analogy. I mean, people. Yes, it's true that for instance, I don't sit down for 6 hours and watch PBS, but I absolutely love Antiques Roadshow. I absolutely love the American Experience, and I absolutely love the Met Opera broadcast they do. And so maybe it doesn't mean that they're making a huge amount of money off of me, but if they decided to become a home shopping network, I would really, really miss out on that. And it's not so much that if there's one bad feature of the new MacBook, it doesn't mean that, oh, well, who cares? The pros are just like 8% of the market. You're also getting rid of the people who really never wanted to do 8-track 4K video editing on their laptop, but they wanted to have a really comfortable keyboard and they want to have a better arrangement of ports, and they don't mind having something a little bit thicker. Again, these are not people who can create a coalition and say we are people who are writers who like good keyboards and want an Ethernet port, and darn it, we spend money, our dollar. It's easy to. I think that as a designer, it's easy for Apple to talk themselves out of good ideas because, oh well, look, here's the numbers. People are not using this feature, and therefore we can get rid of it. But the thing is, you're taking one little brick out of this big wall, and then you keep doing that over. We keep taking bricks out of the wall, and the wall still standing. We can keep doing this. You don't know at what point you've created a really huge structural problem until suddenly you're surrounded by broken bricks and mortar and screaming, crying, people in pain with broken bones.
It's also more than hardware to me. It's the operating system. And I would even look at Mac OS and look at kind of maybe stripping it down a little bit, simplifying it, cleaning it up. One of the strengths of the Macintosh is it came with Python and Ruby and Apache. Put that stuff, in. Make it Python 3, not 2.7. In other words, make a Pro simplified. I think they've crufted up Mac OS with a lot of, kind of usability features that just make it messy, and make cheese grater Mac with a Pro operating system running APFS. Adam, I mean,
yeah.
As a developer, wouldn't you like that?
You got me thinking because I haven't been paying attention to servers, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, they stopped. Server now is an app you run on your consumer grade Mac OS, and they don't make the rack mountables anymore. That's fine. I can understand that.
I was going to say I agree to you to the point that if you look at Mac OS Sierra, a lot of those features that are in there are about integrating with iOS, bringing Siri over. So they're very much the last couple generations we've been getting mostly consumer focused.
Don't even make iTunes anymore. How about that?
I think a lot of people for a lot of reasons would say, I think Apple is finally turning itself around. if they say we're not even replacing it with anything, just know that
we've discontinued iTunes. Thank you. Goodbye. It was a great run.
Poor guy at Virgin Records trying to upload his catalog.
I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have a unique problem is that they were successful in mobile and most computer companies weren't. So they could just keep on either making computers or try mobile and realize it didn't really work for them. Google does not have the entrenched traditional computing business that Apple had. Microsoft was not successful at starting the new mobile business that Apple has. And now they are straddling those two worlds. And it's the only company that's really doing that. BlackBerry didn't do that. Palm didn't do that. HP certainly didn't do that. And it is a problem that does not seem to have longevity in it.
Yeah, spinning it off, though, I don't think is the answer because there is so much cross-pollination that we do benefit from. Even going back to what Rene was saying earlier about the file system, right? So, and I like that Apple keeps the thought process so the underlying technology is there, but they're very much still separate. But yeah, it's put them in a quandary for sure.
Oh, to be so, it's just I would yeah.
You're dreaming of your Pro Mac.
Yeah, I'm fantasizing. It's not
a cheese grater.
A lot of people have been saying the same thing.
All
I've been
SSD.
hearing that mantra a lot. Is why doesn't Apple just do this one machine for the 1%?
Before they lose this business, because they have the
classic Mac.
They have the business, but they're about to lose that business.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, it's not a bad idea. Will they do it? I think likely not, unfortunately.
The reason I understand the disadvantage of spinning it off, but the reason I think they need to spin it off is it's too small a business for them. It's not there'd be too much temptation to pull people out of it and put them on, the next version of iOS.
If it would survive spun off, though, I just don't think that they'd be able to maintain it.
Well, it would be a much smaller company, right? The Apple, call it the Apple Computer Company. Or the Macintosh company. And
because if you look, even just like Core OS is one division and they make all the plumbing for everything. And then you'd have to reduplicate that. You'd duplicate all those things.
But that's why we're getting this hybridized operating system that is really ultimately a consumer operating system. And they're going to lose the most influential group of people. That's the problem.
I mean, on the other side of it, though, they have this whole other dilemma where AI, VR, AR, voice-first interfaces and things are vastly becoming the future of computing in a lot of different ways. So they're also having to deal with that, 5-10 year out dilemma too. It's like, how much do we want to invest in this when everything is going that way?
Yeah, no, that's the problem. That's why you need it to be a small spin-off company that doesn't care.
In 5 years, when you have your marble and that marble just attaches to any monitor that's near you and becomes your environment, you'll worry about, we used to talk about desktop versus phone, and now I just have glass everywhere in my little marble core.
Yeah. It's not that developers wouldn't want that, but eventually we're going to be in a world without keyboards and
implants.
And developers, maybe the 1% is the dying breed. It's the dodos, and that's it, Netflix is the #1 grossing iPhone app in the United States. You wouldn't think so. They're free. In-app purchases, though. In fact, once Netflix added in-app purchases, they saw a huge growth. So that Apple 30% tax, that's looking okay right about now.
Well, I think they're on the 15% bracket, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they get a special deal. Yeah. App revenue has increased steadily. This is according to Sensor Tower and their app intelligence platform. You see, it's funny when you look at the graph. This is November 2015. There were some stumbles there, and then immediately it's like #1 is at the top. They've been hovering around #1 for all this time. Weekly net revenue has grown over the last 2 years from 50,000 to 2.9 million. Last month it was #7. This month it is #1. And look at the revenue growth over time. Of course, now that you can download some of the Netflix original stuff for offline use, I think this is going to go up even more.
I think it helps too that they're going crazy with their, as someone who doesn't have cable and is a cable cutter.
It's a great choice.
They're going crazy with their original programming, and a lot of it's really good.
I love the idea that I could download Stranger Things and watch it on an airplane. It's just fantastic, right? You
can have Stranger Things and Gilmore Girls playing at the same time.
It's so funny to watch Netflix because remember we in the tech journalist business thought they were going to go out of business when they announced, we're going to do this.
Yeah, DVDs.
Yeah, charge you with twice as much, and it was just I never doubted Reed Hastings. I always thought this guy knows what he's doing.
Well, when they split the company in two for a few months, you doubted him, right?
I thought, no, you know what? Here's what I thought. I thought Reed knew what he was doing. I thought Reed was moving towards streaming, had this problem because he had this DVD business and he had the market and he had the board that he had to kind of give them away going forward to not cannibalize their DVD business. But I think he's so smart. He knew that ultimately the path forward was to cannibalize the DVD business. So he went through this ridiculous, shadow play for the benefit of investors and the board, and it was really just to placate them because he knew it was theater. He knew what the future was, and he was right. It's streaming.
And he was also right, pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into original programming. That's been a huge success for them.
Most markets, they were never DVD. They were introduced as a streaming service.
Right.
All we got was Netflix streaming. It's all we know.
It's so funny. But Megan posted on her Facebook feed, or she was visiting her dad, and Grandpa still had some red discs, those red envelopes with the discs. Said, the kids are marveling. What's that, Grandpa? Well, in my day.
Here's some library books too, kids.
It's funny how fast things change, right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's take a break, and our picks of the week coming up in just a little bit. You know what really looks great on my giant size screen is my website. If I go to leolaporte.com, let me do that real quickly and show you. I love how this looks on a giant screen PC. This is good looking stuff. And you know what's neat? Because I did it on Squarespace, it looks just as good on a little itsy bitsy screen. Squarespace is the place to create your next website. The best hosting, plus the best content management system to give you the best of both worlds. Look at that. The little screen and the big screen. Same site. I don't have a separate mobile site. I've got them both. And that's the beauty of Squarespace. In fact, I think yesterday or the day before, I realized, we don't have anywhere that 3D walkthrough we did of the old brick house. So on the air, I posted it on my Squarespace blog, and people could watch and see how easy it was to embed this and create a new blog post. I love Squarespace. Now, don't judge Squarespace by my design, because I've made it very simple, because I like a simple design. But Squarespace, and that's the beauty of Squarespace. You start with their templates, and you can make the design your own no matter what. You can make it look like your art, like your restaurant, like your business, like your personal ethos. Squarespace is the place to make your next website. It is awesome. Every Squarespace site reflects you, whether it's your professional online store or your beautiful portfolio as an artist or a photographer. And of course, because every site has e-commerce built in, it's great for the mobile shopper or the desktop shopper too. You can sell unlimited products with 0 transaction fees. Your data, your financial information is absolutely secure because they run the hosting and the software. It's also that tight integration that makes Squarespace so great. It's kind of like Apple. You want to have great software, you got to make the hardware. You want to have a great website, you got to make the server and the software. The new Commerce app, which you can put on your phone, iOS or Android, lets you fulfill orders on your Squarespace store, manage product inventory, resolve customer invoices directly or issues directly from your device. Squarespace Commerce powers your business. It's the only platform that lets you create, manage, and brand your store in a beautiful way. It's not some afterthought hanging off. So many times you go to a website, and then you go to the store, and it's like, it's like kind of the back of the house there. Not with Squarespace. It all looks the same. It all looks great using your templates. They have a basic plan and an advanced plan with features for your growing business that lets you accept payments instantly. You don't have to worry about getting a merchant account. You, as always, get a free domain with an annual purchase. Squarespace now sells domains, too, so they have more than 300 top-level domains you can buy at Squarespace. And one of the great things about buying a domain name at Squarespace is you get that, great parking page, so much better looking than those other guys, right out of Squarespace. And, of course, it's a snap then to get the page going whenever you're in the mood. If you want to it's easy to do, but if you want to get geeky, hundreds of customizable settings, including fonts, colors, page configurations, a great developer platform too, and the best support 24/7 directly from the Squarespace offices in New York. Start your free trial at squarespace.com right now. It's very easy. Just go to squarespace.com, click the Get Started button. That's it. But if you decide this is for me, as I did, make sure you use the offer code MacBreak, because you'll get 10% off your purchase at squarespace.com. I've never had such a good-looking website. It was, it's funny because it was so easy to do. It kind of sucked me in. I slowly moved more and more over there. Now I suppose I should work on the template a little bit, get it better looking. But I put my photos there. I put my calendar there now. Everything, all the about pages. I just love it. Let's get some picks of the week. Adam Christianson, you know about this, right? We do it every week. You're our guest this week. You get pride of place.
All right, I've got a good one because it's actually Hour of Code Week. I don't know if people know that. That's going on.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. And there is, and plus it's the holidays, so I wanted to do something fun. And this is, hopefully you guys can see this, and hopefully I don't spill these things everywhere. A little pandering. So there's your Twit logo.
Nice. You invented the light bright.
Well, this is called Bloxels. And it's a product and an app. It's actually a company out of St. Louis called Pixel Press. And you get these little cubes and you get this 13 by 13 grid. And what you do is you design and build your own 8-bit side-scrolling video games with the app. So you pluck down the pixels, you take your iPad, you take the camera, you point it at it, it will convert that into your characters, your backgrounds. You can do animations. So you build all of the elements and you store them into your account. They have an online community they call the virtual wall. So I actually scanned this in, and it's a grid system. So if you go to slot -103.97 on the virtual wall, you'll find that. I shared that out there.
Thank
you can share out your things. You can download other people's. You can load other people's games, and you design and build out all the assets, and then you make your own maps. You texturize everything, and you create a game that you can play, your own game that you can play on your iOS device. So it's all about game development. You can iterate. You can do testing, and it's just a really, really fun product. The company recently partnered with Mattel. They're doing the physical part, and they're now focused on the software. And it's $49.99 US retail, and I think you can get it on Amazon for under $40.
Really
and it's
neat.
Hours and hours of fun, and you can build multiple rooms. I think you can do 169 different rooms in a game level, so you can build some pretty amazing games. And it's got power-ups and coins. And
what ages would this be appropriate for, you think?
Oh, I as simple as, if a kid just wants to get into, building little characters and creating animations, it could start as young as, 6.
I want to get this. This is great.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot of fun. These are the same guys. They did another one a while back, a Kickstarter called Floors, which was graph paper where you would draw everything out. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so the different colored blocks when you're building your game levels, you can actually build your game levels. The green are like terrain, and the yellow ones are your coins, and I think the red ones or green ones are villain or different colors. So different colors have different meanings when you're sort of plugging them down and building out your levels. And you can do all of this stuff just in the app as well. But it's really, I love this idea of bridging the physical world and the digital world and sort of bringing them together. I think it makes a lot of fun.
And thank you for reminding us, it's the Hour of Code.
Bloxelsbuilder.com, I believe, is the website.
Nice. Hourofcode.com. There are 146,961 Hour of Code events around the world going on. Spend an hour learning to code. You might find a new hobby now.
Yeah, Apple's participating with Playgrounds, I believe. There's some good stuff inside.
Yeah, Swift Playgrounds have a bunch of curriculum stuff for students and stuff. And I think the Apple Store is doing Hour of Code events at the store.
All week.
All week, yeah. That's really neat. Rene, Richie, your pick.
My first one was Hour of Code at the Apple Store.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Beautiful tie-in.
Whoops.
No, not at all. Beautiful tie-in. You can go there all week. They're gonna have a series of sessions. I went for the last 2 years. I'm probably gonna go again this year. And they bring kids in and they show them very easy to use, step-by-step ways, depending on the age. They have a ton of people there to work with them. It's really hands-on. Swift Playgrounds are new this year, and that's Apple's new app for the iPad. It just went to version 1.1. It's really a really great hands-on dynamic way with downloadable lessons to sort of get you're not sitting there like Xcode project new. You're just learning the basics of how a loop works or how basic functions work, and you go through it, and it really gamifies it in the best possible sense. And you can go to, I think they're running it most of the week. Just check with your local Apple Store. You sign up, you go in, and it's really a great experience. And again, I'm always surprised at just how many people of the staff are dedicated. There's the kids at a table, they have Macs, they have iPads, and the staff is just there helping them through it. So if you have a spare hour, and I think most of us do, get your kids in there coding. It's a great way to start.
Love it.
The second thing I was going to mention quickly is that Apple also announced on Friday their, I think it was probably Wednesday. I'm losing track of my days, but they announced what they're doing for Product Red this year. And Apple's been a big contributor to Product Red for a while. And Tim Cook said that, Apple believes that, they manifest their goodwill through products or their work through products. And that's the best way they feel like giving back. So they have a whole line of Product Red devices already. You can see it from iPods to Apple Watch straps. And they announced a few new ones. So I picked up one of those, and that's the Product Red Apple smart battery case, which I've been using on my iPhone 7 all week. I had it with me in Petaluma, as a matter of fact, because nothing destroys my battery more than roaming on a different network. It just ramps up the radio, and that drains the battery away. And this battery case, yes, it has a hump, but it also has some really, really smart engineering so that, for example, it doesn't cover up not only does it not cover up the radios, but it has radio enhancers. And one of the problems with a lot of battery cases is that they cover the radios, and that means the radios have to amp up to get a signal, and that eats a lot of the power that you're trying to put in through the battery. And also it doesn't fool it into thinking it's connected to a wall outlet. It reminds, because they have a lot of integration, it reminds it that it's still mobile. So it doesn't do a lot of the background networking and processing tasks that also eat up into battery life. So you end up getting, dead are the days that no one cares how much milliamp hours it has anymore in a battery. It's how about the efficiency. And this ends up being a much lighter battery that gives you a lot more power. So if you're interested in Product Red, this is new. There's a couple of Beats speakers that are new. There's an iPhone SE case that is new. The products themselves aren't new, but the Product Red aspect of them is new. And I think Apple's donated over 100 million already to Product Red, and they also announced that with Apple Pay, they're gonna match up to $1 million, and I think there's a bank that's going to match that as well to Product Red. So it's a great way to get great looking products and serve a really important cause at the same time.
Very good. Yeah, this is the last day of Product Red, right?
I think so. Yeah, the entire App Store went red. A bunch of really popular games gave you special download features. Yeah. So if you can, you can get red gem packs in some of your games.
Yeah. Everything's red on the App Store at the top.
Yes.
There. It's kind of cool. And Apple's donating huge amounts of money, I think, to... Yeah,
I think it's close to half of what Product Red, I think, is taken in. It's come from Apple.
Yeah, that's really
At least a third. Yeah.
And, of course, it's World AIDS Day. It's to benefit...
yes.
To create an AIDS-free generation. Tim Cook said the gift of life is the most important gift anyone can give, thanks to the vision and dedication of Product Red. An AIDS-free generation is within our reach. We want to leave the world better than we found it. That's why our longtime partnership with Red remains so important to us. Apple is going to donate up to a total of $1 million. And every purchase made with Apple Pay at an Apple store on apple.com or through the App Store donates $1 toward that $1 million to Product Red.
And it's really Tim Cook's Apple. I mean, Steve Jobs did do a lot of charity. He just didn't believe in talking about it. He didn't believe it. He called it pimping your karma. He just didn't believe in it. Right. But Tim Cook really believes that you can motivate others through doing it. And it's two very different sides of the argument. But I think it's one of the biggest changes he's made to Apple is that they do corporate matching now for donations, and that they're very much in front of their charitable efforts.
Also, free iTunes download of The Lazarus Effect, a documentary about Product Red. And 100% of U.S. proceeds raised from the Killer's holiday album, Don't Waste Your Wishes, which is exclusively available on iTunes, goes to the Global Fund. So you have the Product Reds, you showed that battery case. That's, if you want something that really looks sweet, that's pretty sweet.
And I saw some pictures, and if you look at it in P3, you can really see the red.
There's also an iPhone SE leather case red leather case on apple.com. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
Mine is a free app. It's a free game, as a matter of fact. It's the FlightGear Flight Simulator. You can download it at flightgear.org. It's an open source flight simulator, which means that you think about how obsessive compulsive a lot of members and developers in the open source community are, and then match it to the obsessive compulsiveness of people who like to do simulators. This isn't like Grand Theft Auto, where you can just hop in the cockpit of a 777 and just flick a few buttons and woo, you're in the air. This is like, wait, you can't fly yet. You haven't done the 20 minutes worth of pre-flight button pushing and switch flipping, and then you have to wait for the little dolly to pull you out from the terminal and put you on the runway, and then once you're on there, you have to wait for there is a certain type of meditation effect of saying, no, when do I get to like try to do a loop-de-loop and dive between the spans of the Golden Gate Bridge? No. This is real time. Here is trying to simulate the physics as greatly as possible for every airplane that's in there. The flight dynamics are modeled as closely as possible. Weather systems also closely as possible. Real world airports with all of their little quirks and all the little foibles also done as accurately as possible. And you got to say that there is a certain satisfaction when you start off with that first like little student Cessna, the one that's like really easy to fly. The first time you manage to actually make a smooth landing, you forget how ridiculous it seems that you've spent so much time learning which buttons to flip and how to get the fuel system online and all this other sort of stuff. And there's also kind of ridiculous fun available as well. You can get a space shuttle, you can get X-planes, you can get planes that are capable of getting right to the envelope of the margins of space and back again. And part of the fun is knowing that you're not just watching a movie in which you get to control a joystick and decide where it goes up or down. There is a certain amount of realism, and no, this is what you would have been going through if you were actually trying to land the space shuttle without any assist from the computer at all. So again, it's not for everybody. This is why I like the free aspect. There are some really amazingly good flight simulators, like I think one's called X-Plane. Microsoft Flight Simulator still has its cult, and it's still being sold. It's hard for me to lay out $60 for something that's going to spend 3 hours going up, circling the airport once, and then landing again. But for free, it's kind of a fun little background thing to do, and it also cuts through one of the problems I have with games that take a long time to play. They've never really set their hooks into me, because if I'm going to spend like 3 weeks on this game and I finish the game and all I've learned is how to control this mechanized battle suit that is totally fake and doesn't exist, at least now I know that I am not the dumbest person on board this commercial flight, that I would not be the last person able to land this plane if a sufficient number of people got sick from the fish in the in-flight meal. So you feel like you're learning something about here's what it's like to actually learn a plane. So not that it will save my life and those of hundreds of others, but
just make sure you don't eat the same meal the co-pilot eats, and it'll be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have the lasagna.
Well, always a good idea on any flight. That's cool. How much is that? It's free?
Free. It's
That's
open
really
source,
great.
so it's maintained by the community, and you can tell it's kind of typical for a lot of open source commercial type projects, in that the only disadvantage compared to what you would pay money for is that it looks like it's maybe 1 year behind in like the imagery. So it doesn't look bad at all. It just doesn't look like it often doesn't look like it often looks like a game as opposed to a photograph of an actual plane in actual weather. But if you can give up that, you'll have $60 in your pocket, and you'll have a lot more invitation to keep playing. It also bears mentioning that this is routinely updated. It's not as though this was released in 2011 and then just sort of laid fallow ever since. It's routinely updated. The last update was actually just a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the conclusion of this sterling episode of MacBreak Weekly. I want to thank Adam Christianson for stopping by and putting up with me naming him wrong all this time.
No problem.
From MacCast.
It happens. You're not the only one. I will tell you. You're in good company.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm getting old. Anything you want to plug lately going on with MacCast?
Well, MacCast is still going strong, and you can check that out. I also do, if you're more iOS inclined, I do the iOS show with a couple guys at the iOSshow.com, and every week on Friday, I do the Mac show live over on the British Tech Network, and you can check those out as well.
Good. Very good. The iOS show, the MacCast. The man is everywhere. Thank you for being here, Adam.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Andy Anako, Chicago Sun-Times. What you working on these days?
Finishing up a new episode of Almanac, the new podcast for the Sun-Times. I am trying to figure out if I can get a Google Home versus Alexa comparison out.
Oh, that'd be good.
If not, then I'll start talking about this new mesh network that I'm playing with. I'll probably be online rather than print.
I think a lot of interest in both products. So I think reviews of both will be welcome.
It's exciting time. I'm glad to see here two people two companies taking the same product really, really seriously and each trying to outdo the other.
Yep. Rene Ritchie, imore.com. Back in your homeland.
Yes, sir. My frozen homeland.
From the frozen north. What you up to these days?
We're getting ready for the holidays. It's one of our most popular times of the year because everyone's trying to figure out what to buy for themselves as well as for others, and we try to provide as much support and help and recommendations and everything as possible.
Good. Well, thank you for all that you all do to make our spirits bright. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 2100 UTC. I hope you'll stop by and join us live. The chat room is always open 24/7 at irc.twit.tv. And we make on-demand versions of all our shows always available at twit.tv. In this case, twit.tv/MBW for MacBreak Weekly. But also, you can subscribe to any of your podcatchers. MacBreak Weekly is almost as old as MacCast, so it's in pretty much everywhere that you might think, including iTunes, wow, Stitcher, Slacker, Google All Access, or whatever they call it now, Google Play Music, and all the other places. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Now, back to work, I'm sorry to say, because break time is over.